What is the first advantage we have in the IT sector? That is doing more with less. You no need to pay anything for the capital investment. You no need to install any of the hardware or software. Main thing is what? You just need to get a services. If the customer does not liking one service provider of a virtualization or a cloud computing, then there will be a privilege that they can migrate from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider. Everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I am Rohini TS from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So in my today's session, I am dealing with a B.C.A's third year, that is semester 5 of a subject called Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics. In short, we will be calling it as CCBA of a Unit 1, which is of a Session 1, and the unit name is Introduction. So, Introduction to Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics. So, here you can see the syllabus copy of the Unit 1. So, in this first unit, we will be get to know about what you mean by cloud computing and what are the need of having this cloud computing, and also we are going to deal with the business and IT perspective. We'll see about the first topic, that is related to what? Cloud computing. So then what is this cloud computing is all about? We are making some computation over the cloud. Is that the thing? Really not. We'll see about the cloud computing. It's a term that describes the means of delivering any and all the information technology. Main concern of this cloud computing is what? Irrespective of the customer or irrespective of the place, location, time and all, it is just wanted to render a service. So it wanted to give some technology even from the computing power to computing infrastructure. This cloud computing technology or a cloud computing giving a services or providing all the kinds of technology from the cloud computing power into cloud computing infrastructure. That means it is just giving a platform. It is just giving all the essential what and all we require for the computation. And also it will going to give you the application, business processes and personal collaborations also to end user in as a service. This cloud computing is a technology which is giving all the kinds of services. That means all the services are in the terms of technology that can be used for the purpose of computation, and we can have a computing infrastructure and we can have some of the applications can be used in some of the fields and can be run the business processes and also personal collaboration to the end user, the person one who is getting a benefit. How they are getting? They are getting all these as a services and whenever and wherever they require. So, irrespective of the location, irrespective of the time and date, they are providing you the services. So, this is related to what? Cloud computing, and it is also important question. Define cloud computing. We'll see the benefits and needs for cloud computing. Now we got to know that cloud computing is a service. It is given to the end user in the terms of technology in order to make a planning, in order to make a business computations. It will going to provide you the computing infrastructure. Everything will be given to the end user, the person one who is getting benefited out of this service as a technology service that will going to be given by this cloud computing. Then what is this need of having this cloud computing? What are the benefits we can get out of this cloud computing? As we all know that information technology, information is like an asset for the organization. As the emergence of the IT technology or emergence of the large amount of data, it has to be needed. That means it has to be processed, computation has to take place in order to reach it to the end user. The cloud computing technology is also going to provide, or it will going to have a style of delivery in which applications, data and IT resources are rapidly provisioned. You no need to wait for anything. It is like a pool. So every data and information, every kind of services will going to be dumped somewhere else. So if you wanted to have a services which is related to technology, you can pick it. It will be what? Rapidly provisioning. So no need to wait for anything. So you don't require anybody in order to come to you and in order to install that services whatever, wherever and however you require in order to use that technology. And provided as a standardized offerings to user over the web in a flexible pricing model. So they are not going to ask you in order to give the large amount of money. So that means it is not static in nature. For example, you are using any of the cloud computing technology only for half an hour. Then you no need to pay for a whole day. You should pay only for the half an hour technology or half an hour services what they have provided to you. So this cloud computing technology will going to give you the resources. It will going to give you the applications, data and IT resources in the provision manner. So everything is available. For example, if you consider this as a service providing pool, everything will be there. So if you wanted to have any data and technology which is related to decision making, you can pick it. So if you wanted to have any of the technology which is related to business or strategy, you can pick that. That means what? No need to wait for anybody irrespective of the location and time. So and it will going to have a flexible pricing model. As I told, it is a pay per use. That means pay as you use. So if you are using it only for half an hour of a technology services, then you have to pay only for that. So it is not static in nature. That will also be considered as what? One of the biggest benefit of having this cloud computing. So it is a way of managing large numbers of highly virtualized resources such that from a management perspective and they resemble in a single large resources. As we all know that data is an asset to the organization and maintaining of that data goes wrong, everything will going to be gone. Here also this cloud computing will going to provide a service in terms of managing the large amount of data. So it will be secured in nature, it will be very confidential, can be accessed whenever you want, however you want. For that purpose, we require this cloud computing. And if you are running a business, there could be a possibility of large amount of challenges. This cloud computing services technologies will going to help you out in order to come over that. What is the first advantage we have in the IT sector? That is doing more with less. So you just imagine you wanted to have a data pack to your SIM. Are you going to pay anything for its networking structure, for the infrastructure, or are you paying anything for the cables, connections? No, right? We are just paying only to the service whatever they are rendering to us, or whatever we are getting as a services. For that purpose only we are paying some money. In the same way, having this cloud computing in our organization, it will going to reduce the capital expenditure and it also have a operational expenses. It will going to reduce the capital expenditure. Everything is like instant to use. Like they are going to give you the stage. They are going to give you the red carpet. Main thing is what you have to perform. In the same way, here also in the cloud computing, they are going to give you the service whatever you require without paying anything for the initial or capital expenditure. Then you need to pay only for the services what and all you are taking from the cloud. That is doing more with less. Next, we have a higher quality services. This improves the quality of the services and also deliver new services that help the business to grow and reduce the cost. So by having this cloud computing technology, I can improve the quality of services. Why? Because day by day the cloud computing will going to have new features and it will help me in order to make a business decisions, or it will help me to manage my organization in an efficient manner, so that it will going to improve the quality of the services in the terms of customer and also reducing risk. Mainly it will going to have a high levels of security. So all the data and information of a business, data and processes is safe in the cloud. And also breakthrough agility. That means it is not going to follow only legacy technology or a legacy operation. So it is like a dynamic one. It will going to update the technologies and terms day by day. So here also it will increase the ability to quickly deliver a new kind of services or a new kind of technology in order to capitalize on opportunities while containing cost and maintaining risk. So in the terms of maintaining a risk or managing a risk or having this containing a task, they are going to update day by day. So it is not only going to follow monotonous activities, or it is not falls under the legacy technologies. It will going to be grows as the market challenges or market needs changes. These are the benefits we have in the cloud, and also it will going to accelerate the innovation project that can lead to new revenue. It mainly will going to allow you to have a new kinds of perspective. That means it will going to give you the stage in order to do the trial and error method. So by having this innovations, by having the innovation project, that will going to helps, or that will going to lead to new revenue. That means you can get more money if you are having a new ideas in the market. And it will, this cloud computing works as a enabler of the revenue or enabler of the rapid innovation, than it will going to act as a barrier. That means it is not going to act as a disadvantages of having this. Instead of that, it will going to give you the advantages, or it will going to act as a benefit thing in order to have a rapid innovation. And then it provides an effective and creative services delivery. Mainly it will going to give us security and data and information. Whatever you have dumped in the cloud, everything is safer in nature, and it creates a sustainable competitive differentiation. That means it will going to make you unique in all. That means if you are having a cloud computing technology, or if you are including a cloud computing technology, at that time this will going to allow you to have a innovation, rapid innovation, so that you will be unique in nature, that will going to be identifiable best in a market, and also rapidly deploy the applications over the internet and leverage new technologies to deliver the services when, where and how your clients wants them. Irrespective of the location, irrespective of the time, it will going to provide us services as per the requirements of a customer. Main thing about the cloud computing is what? Is to satisfy the customer requirement, that too in the terms of technology. For that purpose also, we can have this cloud computing, and it is massive in nature. It has a web scale abstracted infrastructure, and it is like a pay-per-use. It's like what? Whatever the services that you have used in the cloud computing, for that only you have to pay, and it is no long-term commitment. So if you are not liking this cloud computing server or a provider, service provider, you can jump or you can migrate from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider. There is no commitments or there is no restriction of migrating. Then operating system, application architecture independent. So if you are dealing with what Linux operating system, Windows, or if you are having any kinds of computers or any kinds of farm tops and all, so it is what independent of application architecture as well as the operating system. No hardware or software to install. So that means you no need to install any of the hardware or software. It is just like a instant use. Everything is ready. You need to just use the services which is given by the cloud computing. This is regarding what? Benefits and need of cloud computing. We'll see the next topic, that is related to business and IT perspective of cloud computing. How the business will going to think about the cloud computing, how IT perspective, that means in the perspective of IT, how it will be in the IT perspective as well as the business. So if you are having a business, main concern is about what? Mainly it will going to deals with the profit. So in this cloud computing, as we all know that it will going to compute or it will going to provide the technology in the terms of services to the end user. The main concern in the IT perspective of cloud computing is what? In order to reduce the IT cost itself. So you no need to pay anything for the capital investment. You no need to install any of the hardware or software. Main thing is what? You just need to get a services. This will going to improve or it will going to reduce the IT cost itself. And also, so if your business continually or having this cloud computing as a service, and if your data and information which is stored in the cloud, at that time you no need to worry about your cloud. That means you no need to worry about your data and information, because if something goes wrong, if some natural disaster happen, at that time who is going to take care about your data? So this cloud computing will going to take care about your data. So you can see here, so if some system crashes or you lose the data due to natural disaster, your data is safe on the cloud. So you no need to worry about anything. You can just use the backup. So that will going to bring you the confidentiality about your data, which is so important for your business. Like it will be in the terms of IT perspective, and mainly this applications and software which is on the cloud, you no need to worry about any of its upgradations or any of its update. Why? Because this will going to do immediately, or this will going to do automatically. This cloud computing, if you are enabling this cloud computing services, at that time it will take care about the application and system software automatic updation and automatic upgradation of the services, and also the performance and scalability of the applications on the cloud are commendable. That means whatever the services it will going to provide, how the performance will be, what is the scalability, that means how it will going to be recovered from the failure. Everything is what? Excellent in nature. So no need to worry about all these security concern. Performance is high and you will get a confidential data. There will be a big backup to your data, and it will going to deal with reducing in the IT cost. Also it will going to give you the best service, and the technicalities of the cloud computing depends on several aspects. So it depends on several aspects, which includes business requirement and cloud deployment model and the data, the kind of data we have, and what are the requirements of a business, what architecture or model, or for what purpose we are using this. That will going to be matters in the terms of its technicality of a cloud computing. This is related to what? Business and IT perspective of cloud computing. We'll see about the next topic, that is cloud and virtualization. I will wanted to give you one example. You just imagine you have a physical keyboard and you have a software called virtual keyboard, which is more convenient for the usage. So if you are having a concern regarding the space, or if you have a concern regarding user interface, at that time virtual keyboard is more convenient. So if you wanted to save the space, physical space, and if you wanted to have a free hand in order to work with that, then virtual keyboard is more convenient. So in the virtualization also, we are making computer resources into virtual form. It is not physically existed, but the data and information which is virtual will be presented in the virtual format. So that virtualization is the process of creating a virtual version of an operating system and computer applications or any computing resources. So we can virtualize computer resources, we can virtualize computer applications, operating system can also be virtualized, or any computing resources we have can be virtualized. So if you are partitioning a hardware, that is also virtualization. So what does virtualization mean? So we are just moving, or we are just migrating from some physical systems and resources to a virtualized environment. So this is not going to be presented physically, but it will going to work everything if it is existed. So in that manner, it will going to be work. So it can be located on site or off site. So there we have several types of virtualization. That is, we can have a storage virtualization, hardware virtualization, and as I told, keyboard is the example for this, hardware virtualization, and partitioning of a hardware, all those things comes under this hardware virtualization. And then we have a operating system virtualization, which is not present physically, but it will going to do all the operations which needs to be done by these resources. This is regarding what? Cloud and virtualization. So now we'll see about the virtualization versus cloud computing. What is virtualization? What is cloud computing? The primary difference being that virtualization is a technology to create virtual data. What is this virtualization is all about? It is a technology in order to create virtualized data. This cloud computing is service offering to the virtual data. So that means if you are preparing a food is a virtualization. If it is providing a kitchen for that, then that is cloud computing. So you can see here, virtualization is a technology to create virtual data. Okay, it is a technology in order to create a virtual data, but this cloud computing is a service offering to this virtual data. It is giving some services to that virtualized data. Already it is prepared, so I am giving some services to that virtual data. That is related to cloud computing. This is like virtualization is different and cloud computing is different. And also virtualization technology can be called as the foundation unit for cloud computing. So this will be termed as what? Foundation for cloud computing. And here this virtualization will going to increase the performance, and it is also going to increase the efficiency because it is a technology in order to create a virtualized data. So instead of having it as a physical data, then there will be a security, more security for the virtualized data. So this will going to increase the performance as well as the efficiency, but it will going to reduce us, the cost which is involved for the expenditure. So that here when it comes to the cost, at the time virtualization, the initial cost involved is more because we have to do some capital investment for that hardware, software required for all the techniques and terms, or in order to have all the resources, the initial expense will be more, but operational expenditure is lesser. So if the operational expenditure is lesser, at that time requirement of a resources will be more. So that means it will going to have a demand for the resource will going to be increased. So that operational expenditure will going to be also increased by default. So now we'll see what are the benefits that we can have with the help of this virtualization. Mainly is what? Availability with lossless DR. That DR is nothing but disaster recovery. So if your data and information which is in the cloud, which is virtualized in nature, then no need to worry about your data security. So availability in the sense what? It is available 24/7. That means if something goes wrong, if some natural calamities or some natural disaster happen, though there will be a security for the data. So it will be available all the time with the help of backupping of the data. That means the data is not going to be copied or it will not going to be stored in one cloud center. Instead of that, it is also going to be copied in some other cloud storage devices, so that there will be more than one copy of your data. So your data will be always available. Next, we have a portability of data and application. So if the customer does not liking one service provider of a virtualization or a cloud computing, then there will be a privilege that they can migrate from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider, irrespective of time and date or any of the location. If they are not liking the services, they can migrate to any other service provider. Next, we have a data security. So data security is the main concern for all the customers. So if something goes wrong, if your data has been broken up, if the system crashes happen, but if it is in the virtualized form, if it is in the cloud computing, at that time there will be security for your data. So that no need to worry about the security. Only authenticated person can have access to your data and information. Next, we have a manageability. So managing the cloud infrastructure from the customer perspective must be under the control of a customer admin. So if any changes needs to be takes place, if any upgradation or if any management operations needs to be takes place, everything will going to be takes place which is unknown to the customer. So without knowing to your knowledge, all the things will going to be takes place in the terms of management. So here also customers of the cloud services must be able to create new accounts, must be able to provision various services in order to do all the user account monitoring for the end user usage, SLA breaches and data usage monitoring, etc. So these many operations or services needs to be given to the customer. So if you are paying something, there must be some privileges in order to access that services. So in the terms of manageability, managing of the operations or a services which is provided by the cloud needs to be also in the terms of customer perspective. Okay, so next we have a elasticity. Elasticity in the sense what? So if the working load of a customer increases, then it has to provide the resources in order to satisfy that much of requirement. So if the need of a customer, or if the working load of a customer is less at that time, it has to retrieve that, or it has to take that resources back from the customer. So that is, at the times of high load, they need to have a greater amount of computing resources which must be available. But when the workloads are low, so when the workloads are high, at that time computer resources available must be on the demand. Okay, so if the demands or workloads are low, at that time the computing resources are released back to the cloud pool. If they are not using, if you are not having that services, if you are not utilizing that service, at that time it will just going to be released back to the cloud pool. If you want it again, you can take that. There will be a elasticity, or there will be a flexibility. So customer expect the services provider to charge them for what they have actually used. So it is mainly related to what? Pay per use. So if you are using the services, then you have to give the amount. If you are not using that services, if it is in the cloud pool, then no need to pay for that. That is related to what? Elasticity. Next we have a federated system. That means if you wanted to buy any of the computer system, are you going to buy all the components of a computer system from the same manufacturer? Obviously not. So we are going to have keyboard from different service provider. We are going to have a mouse from different service provider. That means what? Federated system in the sense what? There must be a privilege of taking the services from different service provider. There should not be restriction of having the services from different service provider. So if that is the thing, then customer will be happy in order to virtualize their data and information. So we'll see the next topic, that is related to what? Cloud and dynamic infrastructure. Now it is mandatory, or it is necessity to learn what is this dynamic infrastructure. So dynamic infrastructure refers to the collection of data center resources like computer, networking and storage that can automatically provision and adjust itself as a workload demand changes. Mainly this dynamic infrastructure in the sense what? It has to adapt to the changes of an environment. So if the workload goes high, at that time provide of the information technology of a providing of a resources must also be high. So if the workload comes low, at that time the resource needs to be picked from the customer and it has to be dumped to the cloud pool. So that will going to be takes place in the dynamic structure. So it will going to have a data center resources like computer or computations, and we have a networking, storage. Everything needs to be automatically provisioned. Whenever they require, they have to provide. Whenever they are not using, it has to get back to the cloud pool. So that will going to be termed as what? Dynamic infrastructure. So now we'll see some of the characteristics of this cloud computing, that is cloud computing characteristics. What is the first characteristic? That is on-demand service. The main working or main concern of this cloud computing is what? That is to satisfy the requirement of a customer by providing the service in the terms of technology. So here on-demand service in the sense what? Whenever the customer require any of the technologies or any of the services, it must be available on time, and they have to charge as per the pay of use. That means how much they are using. For that purpose, they have to take the charge from the customers. So on-demand service, it has to satisfy the requirement of a customer on the basis of their demand. Next we have a ubiquitous network access. That means what? It must be independent of all the kinds of devices. So if I wanted to have a technology which is for my laptops, or which is for my palm tops, or for my computer, irrespective of a type of a client, irrespective of a type of a devices, it has to give the services. That is related to ubiquitous network access. So next we have a location independent resource pooling, that is multi-tenant. So irrespective of a customer or irrespective of a it has to provide a same kind of services. It must be able to provide a same kind of a services for the multiple customer using multi-tenant models. So that means what? they are creating or they are having some technology, but that same technology needs to be utilized by n number of customers. There must be not any restrictions over the type of a customer, where they are locating, are they in particular state or any of the country or any of the data center, from how they are getting the data. Irrespective of all those things, it has to provide the resources as per the requirement of user. And rapid elasticity. So that means capabilities can be rapidly and elastically provisioned, in some cases automatically. That means some changes need by the customer. So this cloud computing must be able to provide that requirement as quick as possible, and it has to satisfy the requirement of a customer by rapidly and elastically growing of the requirement of a services which is given by the cloud computing. So it must be able to provision for any number of amount, that means unlimited, and can purchased in any quantity at any time. So any kind of services they are asking, on what basis they are asking, and like whether they are asking only for the 2 hours, whether they are asking only for the 10 years. So any kind of limitation should not be there with respect of time and the type of service they are providing, and the quantity as well as the type of a customer one who is purchasing. So irrespective of all those things, it has to provide a services to the customer. So these are the characteristics of a cloud computing. Next we'll see the next topic, that is related to cloud adoption. What is this cloud adoption? It is a strategy used by enterprises in order to improve the scalability of internet-based database capabilities while reducing the cost and risk. I'm running some of the enterprises, I'm running some of the organization. I just wanted to reduce my cost and risk. That means there must be security of a data. At that time, we are going to adopt some technology in order to take care about all my data and information which is resides in my enterprise. So that is related to cloud adoption. It is a strategy in order to improves or in order to improve the efficiency of a scalability of internet based database, because in the database it will going to have large amount of data which is variety in nature. So if you are improving the database capability, which will going to reduces the cost and reduces the risk of in the terms of security. For that purpose, we will be having this cloud adoption, and this is also important for 2 marks. That is, what is the definition of cloud adoption? So what is the benefit of having this cloud adoption? So if you are keeping your data and information in the private cloud, at that time there will be a security. Only authorized people can access that. So it will going to improve the ability in order to store the data in the private cloud, but that can be run or that can be used in the public cloud. So accessibility will be more, but with respect to the security, if you are keeping that data and information in the private cloud, then security is also there. Security will be there and accessibility is also there. So that will going to improve the availability. If it is available to the user, they can get the high revenue from the end user. That is the main thing of this cloud adoption. Then where and all can we use this cloud adoption? It can be used in healthcare, marketing and advertising, and retail, finance, as well as in the educational purpose, by incorporating both private cloud services as well as the public cloud services, mainly in order to reduce the cost and risk by using of this strategy called cloud adoption. I hope you all understood. So in my next session, we are continuing with the introduction, that is chapter 1 only. Let me meet you in the next session with a continuation of Unit 1. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.